Welcome to the Takedown with Jesse and Brian. We got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about how MAGA was then versus how MAGA is now. We're going to talk about our ballooning debt, now at 38 trillion. And then we're going to talk about New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani and what that could mean for New York. Let's get started. Jesse, you there?
Hey Brian,
Hey, how's it going?
going well.
Yeah. All right, so we're back for another show. The first thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to show the viewers. It's the MAGA then, MAGA now. I came across this meme, and it's up a little bit here. And basically, what it says, what it's trying to show is, that the MAGA of 2016 and 2020, and really like right before the election, is significantly different from the MAGA of today. So it says like MAGA then was Epstein's clients going to prison, abolish the IRS, every gun law is an infringement, no new wars. But now the MAGA now, which appears to be a slightly more brain damaged version than the MAGA then, is, well, you didn't care about the Epstein when Biden was president, or, it's a Democrat hoax, or taxing imports will fix the economy, or let's do red flag laws, let's do regime changes. And, I know true MAGA people like me, I'm a MAGA guy of the 2016. Okay, so where my thoughts are going with this is when I think of MAGA, I think of the real Make America Great Again. Okay, so the 2016, like the platform Trump 1.0 ran on, but in 2024, MAGA doesn't seem to mean what it used to. So I guess my question is, and you can tell me what you think, is what does it really mean to be MAGA now? Because it's slowly drifting away from what it previously was.
Yeah, so I'd start by I think the tidy way to think about that is to say that it's super easy to not wield power you don't have, right? So a lot of these people that are that are pivoting, that are taking these seemingly new stances of we should use government authority for that actually, right? Like that's not a new stance. That's how they always wanted to do things. They just didn't have the capacity to do it, right? You can't swing a bat you're not holding. So now
That's
that
right.
they're holding that bat, they're swinging away at all this stuff that they've just kind of always wanted. And I mean, it does bear like a striking resemblance to what you would have seen, out of the other side, as your meme depicts, right? It's just slightly tuned to their liking, and I kind of hate that. But I think what I would say is that the grassroots part of the movement, Make America Great Again, is probably still more in line with you or I than it is with those depicted in the meme, right? Or at least I would hope that. That's just the vibe I get. I don't have a good way to back that up. I don't have stats or anything.
It's yeah, another thing that I've been reading about is, we're gonna buy Argentinian beef. And it's like, you're the MAGA guy. Okay, the MAGA guy does not buy Argentinian beef. The MAGA guy buys American beef and American everything.
I've
MAGA by definition is America first. Make America great again, not make Argentina great again or any other country.
I've
And
not read about the Argentinian beef. Read me in here.
yeah. So basically, the Javier Milei, however you pronounce his name, basically said, please buy Argentinian beef. And for whatever reason, Trump was like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And all the American ranchers were like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a great. We have beef, right? Like, I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we got tons of beef. We got tons of beef.
yeah,
I mean, some of it's expensive, but
yeah.
obviously I'm not an expert on the intricacies and the policies around ranching or whatever. But if you ask the ranchers, they'll tell you that it's more the meat packers than the actual ranchers themselves. And so it's like they're saying, hey, if you're gonna buy Argentinian beef, you're gonna destroy us. But the point is that, like, where's the America first? And when I think of MAGA now, I'm thinking Thomas Massey. I'm thinking Rand Paul. I'm thinking of this ever shrinking number of people we're gonna segue into the debt next, and there's more to talk about there. But like these are true MAGA guys, and they're the ones getting called like rhinos or turncoats or all these other ridiculous phrases, which just seems like you know reflective behavior of the highest order. Accusing someone of really what you are.
Yeah, there's been a few uh very pivotal moments like since the new admin took office, and I think like the moment that Trump started taking swings at Massey is really when like the wallpaper started to come off on that, right? It was like how essentially it's like how dare you even posture about the idea that we should behave in a fiscally conservative fashion. Like as though the very notion were an avarice. It was bizarre, right? I didn't really know how to process it then. I don't really know how to process it now, outside of I guess what you're saying, which is to say that it just never was the position of certain figures within the movement.
No, never, never. And it's not. It's like everybody else is kind of falling in line too. Now, the right does have a higher degree of diversity of thought, than the left. The left is very centralized on their thought. They're more in a lockstep. The right is more likely to think outside the box, but there's also a high percentage of people on the right who are exactly like people on the left, meaning they're just gonna fall in line. It's like that guy Cat Turd,
Oh
on
yeah,
X.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that guy is a Trump ride or die. Trump can do no wrong, and you and I are happy to criticize whoever, including myself. Like I'm a huge Trump guy, but when I hear about buying Argentinian beef and somehow that's being spun as being pro-American, it's like no, it's not,
No.
and I don't mind calling that out. I'm not going to be like, oh well, Trump must have some master plan on the back end,
Yeah.
to make Argentinian beef work. I really don't think that's what's occurring.
No, yeah, it's not you're right. I'll call them dear leader people, and dear leader people are always just so quick to jump to the 4D chess explanation for Argentinian beef or whatever the subject at hand is. Oh, it looks bad, but no, there's no but, man. It's just we're just making bad political decisions.
Yeah, there's no but at all. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up like the Epstein list. I mean, how much
Uh,
stuff was on the Epstein list in this election cycle? I mean, you had Pam Bondi saying she'd release it. You had Kash Patel up there saying we'll release it on day one. You had Trump that said release it immediately. And well, we're like 200 days in. Where is it? Where is
so,
it?
speaking of those moments within the admin that had like huge pivotal implications. I don't know if it was the earliest one, but he invited like I don't know, like a dozen social media clout chasing douchebags to the White House, and he handed out binders that were like, "Oh, the Epstein files," and it was the exact release that had already been passed out, with just like a giant redactions everywhere. And like I guess to their credit, and this could be me remembering things incorrectly, I'm not sure, but several of them actually took to to their cloud chasing social media accounts, to be like, what is this, right? But several of them also jumped to the 4D chess explanation. So
What? So speaking of that event, one of the funniest things I saw during that whole, here's your binders ordeal was someone mentioned that maybe when the second release comes out, they can have all these so-called quote unquote clout chasing creators who really are just grifters, but maybe that's just a topic for another day.
it might
Maybe they
be.
can like hit a giant piñata and all the all the binders fall out.
They should gamify it a bit, maybe
Yeah,
even like maybe even squid gamify it a bit to where only one of
yeah.
them gets it. You understand the route.
Just like put a little blindfold on him, right? Give him a little stick and be like, hit that thing until your binder of Epstein files falls out.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good.
Just make it hilarious. Put it on like pay-per-view and
Yeah,
make
I'll
it
tune
funny.
in. Yeah.
You know? So, but it's like, I don't, you know, this whole Epstein list thing. I want to see justice for all the I want to see pedophiles go to jail, and I want to see pedophiles go to jail regardless of what party they're part of. I don't really care who. I don't even care if they're in government. I want them all to go to jail. But
Right? Yeah.
that's a separate matter. It's this is turning into a thing where it's more than just the victims now. It's also a symbol of mass cover up. Because you mentioned this before. Maybe you can reiterate your stance on this. It's like, who are they protecting? Because if if this list was damaging to Republicans, it would have came out before the election. And if this list was damaging to Democrats, it would have came out after the election. Since it's came out under neither. Like, what's in it?
Yes.
What's taking so long?
There is no figure so centrally beloved as to be universally protected. That's not a thing. So, I mean, the only rational explanation there, from my perspective, is that it's mutually assured destruction. Like, no one can release it because too many people on their team, giant air quotes here, uh, are hanging out on that island. Is really what it comes down to, right?
And yeah, I don't know how you break that gridlock. Maybe at some point you elect someone that is just neutral to the matter, and they're like, well, here it is. It's gonna be nasty, but here it is.
Yeah, I don't know if this is too far into tinfoil hat territory, but I imagine you get yourself Kennedy doing that.
Well, hey, to me that's even more proof that there's some stuff there.
Yeah.
If
Oh yeah.
people are willing to kill you over it, uh, and again, tinfoil hat, whatever happened to Epstein, who knows? But yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it's like we all saw that with our own eyes, and that's just as much part of the cover up as everything else. So,
Yeah.
okay, I want to shift to the debt. So we hit a milestone the other day, and it's crazy to think about, but it's $38 trillion in debt.
Can I?
And there's really only like five people in Congress who actually care about this. Thomas Massey's one, Rand Paul's another, and then there's a couple other people, actual conservatives, actual fiscal conservatives, not this fake stuff, but you know, they're really saying, and we don't have to go back into the shutdown again, but Rand Paul went on X and he said, well, here's what you have to choose from. You have to choose from Republicans who want to spend 2 trillion we don't have. Uh, you have to choose between that, or you have to choose between Democrats who want to spend 3 trillion we don't have. And it just calls into question, like, what does it mean to be a conservative now? Because if by my definition, there's like three conservatives in all of Congress.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Real quick before we get into the what does it mean to be a conservative part of this, when you brought up the debt, I thought on it a little bit, and I was like, man, a weird thing you'd hear like consistently is that historically, debt matters were settled in kind of a violent way, right? Like you'd have a country that owed another country money, and then it'd be like, ah, rah, like go to war, which is counterintuitive, right? Because war costs money, and you're in debt, and that's why you're doing it. But these days, that's it's like, hey, why don't we just, we owe these guys, but why would we even pay them? Just like threaten them militarily. Stupid concept, right?
Hmm.
But also it just not a functional concept. And what I'm getting into here is that, like the debt, like I don't think people construct it correctly. They go, we owe China, $37 trillion. Not accurate. Not accurate at all,
No,
right?
not at
We owe
all.
we owe intergovernmentally, we owe $7 trillion to foreign nations collectively, all of them. We owe $8 trillion,
Yes.
and China's not even the leading holder on that. It's Japan. I think Japan has $1 trillion worth of our debt, and then internally, publicly, we owe $22 trillion. So $22 trillion worth of our debt is owed to public investors, which means that the government has, essentially sold treasury bills to the tune of $22 trillion, to the American public at large, in some way or another, whether it be pensioners or whatever it may be. Um, you know, there, there is no way out of the debt that is just like shuffling some foreign entity, hand waving them away. You can't do it. We owe us is
Yeah,
what it comes down to.
yeah. The whole back to one of the points you just made. The whole. I'm actually shocked at how many people think that China holds like 32 trillion of the 38 trillion. It's actually crazy how many people believe that.
Yeah, almost everybody thinks that, or at least almost everybody I've ever talked to seems to think that.
Yeah, and I looked this up a while ago, and obviously just the numbers are scaled up now, but you know, when I looked this up when we were around 18 trillion in debt, like collectively foreign governments only held like 3.5 trillion, something
Mm.
like that, three. And you're right, Japan, around that time, Japan and China were like tied at number one, and then every other country held the remainder. But yeah, a lot of the debt is also robbing of other programs. So Social Security is supposed to be its own fund, but really that's debt that the government owes itself, and it's why they roll Social Security into the full federal budget because they have to. They've robbed that fund. There's no
Yeah, they
money
rated
there.
it.
It's not a fund you pay into. It's literally just a money transfer between the working and the retired. And there's a shortfall there, which is made up by, the federal budget itself. And but that's just to say that there's a lot of money that owes itself. I guess they could wand wave that, but what's going to happen to the people who paid into that? Because that's not a free money pile for a lot of people. That's supposed to be
No.
money you already paid into.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's I mean, the whole thing, like, the more you look at it, the worse it gets, kind of situation, right? Like, even if you went out, like you, Brian, went out and bought, a $50 treasury bond tomorrow, and then you sold your $50 treasury bond, 10 years down the road, the government would not give you $50. They would make a new treasury bond and sell it, right? Like, they would just replicate it, and it would appear that you had gotten your money. Um, but no money actually changed hands. Or rather, no money was actually spent by the government to pay you. They just borrowed more money to pay you that money.
Yeah, it's wild. The last subtopic I want to talk about with the debt is you know, what is the theoretical limit? And what I mean by that is, there has to be a breaking point. And I've talked to my wife about this, and I think there's a good chance that her and I and you, we're all roughly the same age, has a pretty decent chance of seeing 100 trillion in debt before we die. There's a decent chance of that. Unless there's a course correction, then we won't. But as of right now, there's a good chance that that's going to occur. And when I think about 100 trillion debt, obviously that's approximately triple what there is now, 2.5 times. So our interest payment is already the largest item now, which is insane if you think about it, because that's just money you throw away for nothing. That's just service on the debt. So if the debt is 2.5 times its current value, so 100 trillion, that also means that the interest payment is 2.5 times the value. And if you did that, the interest payment is now, I mean, the government only takes in like, what, 4 or 5 trillion a year? So that 2.5 interest payment is over 50% of the entire budget. And like, where does it end? What's there has to be like a hard wall at some point. I'm just wondering what you think about that.
So you're. Let me think here. So you're above me here in terms of of how, like, I don't is I think how I would is what I would come down to. I don't. It's a I know that there's some calculus out there that suggests that, oh, the debt's not so bad because the debt is a measure, and we can look at it against GDP, and as long as it doesn't get to like X, it's not such a big deal. I do know that it's at roughly 100% of GDP right now, and
Hmm.
I would say that that should be cause for alarm, right? Oh, hey, we're
Yeah.
at 100%. However, devil's advocacy, Japan, whom we talked about earlier, are something like 220% of GDP.
Uh-huh.
So, well, we owe the most money, like dollar for dollar, uh, face value. We don't have the worst ratio there, in terms
True.
of amount owed, versus amount earned. But that isn't, like, none of that is to suggest that we're doing good, right? Like, we're not. It's just to suggest that there's so much motion involved that it's very easy for somebody that has an agenda, and like, everybody kind of has an agenda, to to play the numbers game with it, to go, well, it's not so bad because X, Y, and Z, or it's we're all on fire because of A, B, and C, right? Um, so I simply don't know, is the answer. I have no idea where you would establish a wall. Even if you did, what you do about it. I've always liked the simplicity of the proposed Warren Buffett solution. The idea that, at the end of a congressional term, if you don't have a balanced budget, none of you are eligible for reelection. That seems like the only viable solution.
There's a lot of solutions. I think it's just you have to convince these people that they like any good solution requires them to, you know, uh, metaphorically speaking, slit their own throat, because like the one thing that Congress tends to agree on always, and I've been saying this for probably a decade, is Republicans and Democrats agree always on two things. Number one, spending money that they don't have, and two, retention of power. And so to convince these people that there should be term limits, never going to happen because that violates the retention of power.
Right. And
And
I go.
conservatives are just as willing to spend money as the liberals, just slightly less.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I think, so it's catch 22, right? So the law that suggests the balanced budget is necessary, or none of you are eligible for reelection, is necessary and also impossible to arrive at, because the very people that would be impacted by it are the people that would have to affect it, right? Um, so yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't pass that. It's not a thing that we can bring into reality, but it is the thing that's necessary. And it's kind of wild too, because I think that something else that everyone in government loves to do is to point to the why, right? They go, well, I can't do that because, right? So that bill would actually, it it would help them, like, in the long term. They would be able to go, look, I would have loved to have done this, but I couldn't because we had to have this balanced budget. It's a mandate. But we're not going to get to a place where they have that to point to, because they're not going to vote for it, because voting for it will get them fired.
Yeah. And to your point with the whole GDP, I wanted to mention one thing about that. You're absolutely right. If the economic output of our country doubled, then that sort of in effect cuts the debt in half.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually cut it, but it makes the effect less interesting because if there's twice as much tax money, then 1 trillion in interest is sort of a nothing burger. What I worry about is that just every sector of American business and the market is just one giant bubble. And I just wonder what happens when that pops.
It would be
And
interesting to know. You might have the numbers. I'm sorry, just real quick. You
yeah,
said tax money. So
yeah.
what percentage of our, like, what percentage of the capital that the government operates off of actually stems from tax money, as opposed to the sale of treasury bills, as an example?
I don't have that answer.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I'm not
something we'll have to
sure.
look at later.
I'm
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
I'm
to cut you off. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just basing it on a so-called, and I'm using quotey fingers right now, revenue.
Okay, yeah.
Not that the government actually makes money, but people seem to send it money, and yeah, about 20% of that money goes to interest. If you were to fast forward to today, and we're in 2 trillion, not 2 trillion, sorry, 200 trillion in debt. If I just snap my fingers and that occurred, then 100% of the revenue would go to service the debt. And obviously, at that point, you can't pay for anything.
Right.
And people are definitely noticing. Like just yesterday, I think it was Moody's or one of the credit rating agencies lowered us from to AA minus. So we were AAA pretty much forever until Obama, and
Yeah.
then we got lowered to double A plus, and then during I think Trump won or Biden, we went down to double A, and now we're at double A minus. So like people are taking notice.
Yeah, and that has to have some fairly significant implications, right? So going back to the idea that you could sell your treasury bond, and they wouldn't technically pay you, but they would, they would sort of pay you, right? The only reason that any of that works is because they know they can print one and sell it. You know you can buy one and sell it. And if you get into a space where that's not true, which is to say, you get into a space where your credit rating, is tarnished to the point where people are like, "Ooh, that's a risky investment. I'm not going to buy that bill." Um, Man, like it just all comes off the rails like almost immediately, right?
It's sort of a house of cards, yeah. And when you start flicking a couple cards from the bottom, things start looking a little shaky. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're at 26 minutes. We're going to switch to the last topic, and you know exactly what that is. It is New York mayoral can't. Well, actually, are they voting right now?
I don't know. They might be. I that it's been so
Let me just
like it's
double
been
check
such
here.
a
Hold on.
yeah.
They may be voting right now. Oh, first, it's early voting. Day one of early voting was yesterday.
No, that sounds about
Okay,
right for that
yeah.
state.
So we are talking about New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani.
So
Now, I don't care so much about the guy as I do the policy, and
yeah,
and really I don't even care so much as at the policy as much as what the way in which he's talking is both very different from everybody else, and I'm talking even like liberals. He's so far crazier than Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo, even though they're Democrats. Like they're way out there. And that's the first thing, is he's so much different. He's a self-described, like, he's a literal communist. Talking stupid talk like seizing private companies and creating communes out of housing and this and that. But the second thing is he speaks with such derision towards America, as if
yeah.
this is truly the worst place on earth. Except he came here. He's from Uganda. So if
And
America is so bad, why did he come here in the first place?
the man's killing in the polls, and that's the man. I don't know. So the age old question: why why leave a place that you don't like, come to a place that you do like, pretend that you don't like the place that you came to, and then work hard to make that place more like the place that you left because you didn't like it, right? Obviously just absurd. People do it internally all the time. You see Californians flee California, go to other states, and then start gumming up their political works to make it more like California, the place that they left. This is just that on an international stage, I guess. So I
Yes.
can't I can't answer the psychology or perhaps psychopathy behind that. It's 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 insane to me. But
But
man,
why are like New Yorkers putting up with it? I mean,
that's what I want to know. That's the part of it that blows my mind. It's not
you
it's
know,
not so much him, it's how's he doing well. Um,
I have a
why?
theory. I
Let's
have a
hear it.
theory, and that theory is it's just foreign population. like there's been unchecked immigration for so long because one of the polls that I think was most telling in this race was when they did a poll of like, native New Yorkers versus foreign New Yorkers. The foreign New Yorkers went massively for Mamdani, and the native New Yorkers went massively for, Adams slash Cuomo. I know Adams isn't running, but you know, they went for that people. So it's like, well, wait a minute. I mean, is New York City just is it just all immigrants now?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You know, because
I
that's kind of what the poll suggests it is.
Yeah, and the last polling I saw suggested that if the Republican bailed, you'd have a neck and neck race. Um, and I mean, that would suggest that roughly 50% is what we're seeing, right? Like some half of the voting populace of New York is just, not all right. I don't even know how to parse it exactly, right? But recent immigrants, is that how we would say it? Like
I
I don't know what that populace looks like.
I don't either. Why? I mean, neither of us are from New York. I've only been
No,
in New York
no.
one time my entire life, and that was enough.
Yeah,
And
handful.
I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, I don't have my finger on the pulse of what's going on there, but it just seems like unless you're an illegal or a foreigner who has dual citizenship or something else who just thinks that this move is going to get you a bunch of free shit, which kind of seems like that's what it's all about. It would seem like a vote for this guy is a vote against your interests.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I so and that takes us into the part of this that I actually think is like kind of fascinating is let's say that is the case, right? This dude's got this groundswell that's coming largely from this demographic that you've theorized, and you're one of the people that have lived in New York, for decades, and you were there during a period of time where it made sense. And what I mean by that is that, like we discussed, like it's the centralization of businesses, right? Businesses doing businesses with business, or sorry, too many businesses there, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Uh, and 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 that does not make sense now, like at all. And I mean, we've seen it in California. Businesses just getting up and leaving because they're like, man, you are hostile to us. There's no reason for us to be here. We can do what we do somewhere else. That's even more true in New York. Nothing has to be in New York. So, like, if this
No.
dude gets elected, what's what are the chances that the city just starts to get gutted from,
I,
you know,
well, I think pretty high. I mean, New Yorkers, I guess particularly the ones that would have voted for Cuomo or did vote for Cuomo, you know, they're not going to sit around and watch their business get seized by a literal communist at
yeah,
the threat of violence by the New York City police force or whoever he's going to find to enlist in this task. They're not going to sit around and accept that, obviously.
no, yeah, and I mean that's another question, right? Is like so police forces to some degree are adherent to the will of the public officials, and I say to some degree because there's the idea of quiet quitting sort of exists within every sector up to and including law enforcement. And if I'm a law enforcement official and the dude that is getting elected as mayor has stated on record that we need to defund the police completely, which that dude said in like 2021 or something.
Oh, yes.
Why on earth would I take action on that dude's behalf? Like,
Yeah, I don't
like
think you would. And even if it wasn't defund the police, I mean, you sort of have at least some sort of duty to not do a thing that's kind of morally
evil.
wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you gotta do your job, but there's always well, wait a minute. I mean, should I really be doing this?
Right.
And it's one thing to say, it's one thing to say, well, marijuana should be legal or whatever. And so I'm going to selectively not arrest that guy that has a bag of weed. It's one thing to do that. It's another to say, this guy wants me to arrest all these business leaders in order to seize their company, I mean, you you can't really do that and then look yourself in the mirror and say, well, I was just doing my job.
No,
You
yeah.
know,
And at some point it's going to get into the rank and file, right? Like, can he convince I don't remember her name, but the person running, the police force in New York to take that action? Probably. Can he convince the dude that lives on the street with the market that he's, trying to have seized? No. Like that dude's not going to do that.
no, he's not. No, he'll just leave the police force, which is, I guess, sort of what this guy wants anyway. And
Maybe,
yeah,
yeah.
so I think it's gonna. I mean, it looks like he's gonna win easily,
He's going to win.
which is which is just fucking wild
It's
on its
horrifying.
own. But like it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens with that.
What my prediction here is that he wins, that he runs that place into the ground, that we see pretty much every private sector business that has the capacity to GTFO do exactly that. Um, and we see a less powerful New York, uh, a couple years down the road, right? And
And
hey, I
yeah,
mean, I guess, like, from my perspective, that's kind of a win, right? Because like if you have a population drop in New York, then we get a seat reallocation and long-term gains, I guess, right? It's just I hate to see the short-term suck that's going to be
right.
visited upon, like
Yeah,
a storied city, a storied American city.
yeah, that's right. And yeah, so the final thought on that, I think, is just, it will bring about an eventual course correction.
Yeah,
Okay, because, they're gonna see a literal communist in action and feel it, and it'll reaffirm that that doesn't work.
right. No, that's a
Doesn't
it's a
work anywhere.
terrible. We do
You
it all.
know?
We try it once in a while. It's never good.
Yeah, it's not. It's yeah. You could try the same thing over and over again. It's not gonna work.
No.
This whole oh well, it just wasn't done right. No, 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 no. No,
We'll
it's not about whether it was done right. It's not a thing that works. Sorry.
have to we'll have to do an episode on predicting which Trump kid gets to be mayor after they decide they need a new Giuliani. It'll be
That was a bunch to choose from. So
Yeah, it's true. It's coming, man. It's like it'll have that good red shift. We'll get the broken window policy era again for a
yeah,
little while. Things will be good, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I hate this. Let's elect somebody that's going to cause crime." I don't. It's that part that's so weird to me, right? Like, you'd think you'd get into that space that things were kind of good, and you'd go, "Man, let's, like, stay here," but no, nope, that's not how it works.
yeah. Okay, well that's let's see if you have any final thoughts. I think that's it.
I No, I think that's probably,
Okay.
we could have ended before my last point, and it would have been
Yeah,
stronger.
that's all right. I think my final thought is if they think a guy that eats his rice from a plate with his hands like a barbarian,
Is that a thing?
it's definitely a thing. Yeah, he like there's a picture of him just like full fisting this rice meal with his hand and like shoving it in his mouth like he's a
Put
caveman,
it put it
like
on the screen.
Neanderthal.
Put it on the screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna show everybody. Yeah, and I'll
Uh,
send you as well. I'll show you what I'm talking about. But yeah,
I'm
this is
trying.
definitely a thing.
All
Like
right,
he's literally eating like he's sitting on the side of the road of a third world country.
that's amazing.
It's crazy, but okay.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be it for that.
All right.
And yeah, well, we will catch up on the next episode.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, very good.
All right. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Takedown. Hope you enjoyed the show and hope to see you back next Sunday for another video. Until next time.